Hey, what's going on? Jeff Ratcliffe here. It's week 15, baby. Fantasy football semifinals is upon us. And what a week 14. The injury carnage around the NFL. I can't remember a week like this. If you were hit by the injury bug, you are not alone. A lot of folks out there certainly hit by injuries, but if you made it through, you're in the fantasy semifinals. There's still opportunity to work that waiver wire. So let's break down some of the top ads this week. And fortunately, the injuries really didn't strike at quarterback. Sure, Patrick Mahomes' hand, but it looks like he's going to play through that. And same thing with Jameis Winston. Looks like he's going to play through the hand injury. But I tell you what, recently, Ryan Tannehill has been absolutely on fire. Since week 7, only one quarterback averages more fantasy points per game than Ryan Tannehill, and his name is Lamar Jackson. So Tannehill, if he's out there, absolutely has to be owned for the stretch run here. He's just putting up the points that we had hoped all along that Marcus Mariota was going to. Tannehill is a top 10 option for the final 2 weeks of the fantasy football season. Moving over to running back, and sure, there have been some injuries here, but we've also seen some players emerge, taking their opportunities and running with them. One of those, of course, over the last 2 weeks has been Raheem Mostert. He's been a revelation, and I've jokingly said, hey, Raheem Mostert's the greatest preseason running back in NFL history. If you look at his preseason stats, I just did a video about this last week, they're off the charts. But it never really translated to the regular season. Well, it finally has. Over the last 2 weeks, he's a top 5 fantasy running back. He's putting up big-time numbers with both his legs and as a receiver. And this isn't changing. Last week, San Francisco made it very clear Mostert was clearly ahead of Matt Breida, clearly ahead of Tevin Coleman. I don't think that changes here. It's a very run-friendly offense here in San Francisco. So I think we see a lot of Mostert in the final 2 weeks of the fantasy football season. Moving over to wide receiver, and hey, we're going to pair up with Ryan Tannehill here because A.J. Brown has also been on fire. The rookie receiver showing a massive fantasy ceiling over the last 3 weeks. He is a top 5 fantasy receiver. He's 5th among wideouts in fantasy scoring over that span. We saw the enormous upside out of him last week. Hey, down the stretch here, A.J. Brown, if you're looking for a high ceiling, high upside guy, I always say young players tend to win fantasy championships for us. A.J. Brown as a rookie certainly fits the bill. Finally, let's move over to tight end, and an injury did create an opportunity here as well. 2 weeks ago, Gerald Everett sidelined. Tyler Higbee steps in against Arizona, puts up monster numbers in that contest. Of course, it was Arizona, though, the number 1 matchup. Well, last week, he ends up getting the number 2 matchup against Seattle, puts monster numbers up again. Over that span, those 2 weeks, he's the number 1 fantasy tight end. With Gerald Everett still banged up here, I anticipate Los Angeles continuing to go to Higbee early and often this week, making him a primetime pickup at tight end. Of course, hey, these guys may already be owned in your league, and that's fine because we got you covered over at PFF. Every week, my waiver column breaks down in depth all the waiver ads you need to make. Now, while this week isn't one of the biggest weeks on the waiver wire, there are some primetime names on this list. Over 30 recommendations, including 4 defenses that you can stream this week to give you some major fantasy upside. You get that, you get fantasy rankings, projections, you get all kinds of football goodness and more at PFF.com.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel, and if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.